Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Paula McCain. I am a recovery business advisor for the North Central Texas Small Business Development Center. Today is National Bavarian Crepes Day and National Goof Off Day. So that's what I'm doing this afternoon. The SBDC is a leading provider of assistance for small businesses. We are grant funded, and because of that, we are able to provide our resources to you at no cost. Resources such as today's webinar, Taking the Cryptic Out of Cryptocurrency, presented by Rebecca Schultz. Rebecca has been helping business owners access money and financial education for over 25 years. She is the founder and executive loan consultant for CenterLock Funding. Welcome, Rebecca. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you all. I am so excited about today's conversation. We were just chatting before we started about, upcoming inflation concerns and how, as business owners, do we start trying to get around what might be a very big mess, right? And so this is one of the solutions, and we'll talk a little bit about it, but it's something that's evolving and changing as we're talking about it. New laws, rules, adaptations are taking place. So I know this will be a conversation that we'll be in the middle of for many years. All right. But let's go ahead and get started. I'll bring it up real quick. Give me just one second. All right. Let's do it. Okay, team, so we're taking the crypto or the cryptic out of cryptocurrency. My name is Rebecca Schultz. I am the founder executive loan consultant for CenterLock, and I love what I do. I love talking about money. I love helping business owners understand their financial management a little bit better, right? And get more solid so they can help grow those businesses, not only for themselves and their family, right, but for all of us, right? For all of us. So with that, let's kind of get going. I always like to start with a quote or a meme. Right, today, very poignant. I started with a quote. You can't stop things like Bitcoin, right, cryptocurrency. It'll be everywhere, and the world will have to readjust, yeah, readjust. World governments will have to readjust. We're just all going to have to cope with what's coming down the pipelines. There are so many good quotes, to be honest with you. I felt like we could just have a whole entire presentation on quotes on what's about to happen. But we all understand the world's changing and it always changes, right? And so we are in the midst of a very big change that will impact all of our lives and more importantly, our businesses. So today's agenda, I've divided up the conversation into 6 different categories. Right? We're going to talk about the evolution of money. Right? Evolution happens all around us. Money is not escape from this. We're going to talk about cryptocurrency impact on small businesses. All right, some small businesses aren't even aware of this. Maybe they heard about Dogecoin or Bitcoin, and all around them they're starting to hear these little whispers of what's happening. But there are small businesses that are in the midst of this, right? And we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to see what advantages, right? What's happening in that place, and hopefully enough information for you to determine if you should jump in. Okay? Not telling you you need to. We're going to be looking at it and helping you decide if it's right for you. All right, we're going to talk about preparing digital money in your business, right? Is that important? Should you start preparing for it? What steps do you need to do in order to access this type of money, right? That's not something we all know about. So we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about market reach and how we expand that with cryptocurrency. Right, I know that seems a little awkward, right? I'm going into a little bit of the marketing conversation. I promise it'll make sense, right? And then there's a thing called cryptocurrency loyalty dollars or loyalty rewards, right? And so, as a business owner with clients or customers, you might be really interested in ways that you might be able to reward those clients or customers for using your products or services or create a competitive advantage, right? We'll talk about that. And then we're going to end on something I was sharing earlier that's really important, right? It's the talk about inflation, right? And then we're going to talk about inflation and digital money. How do those two come together or how they've not come together? And what are some considerations as we see our economic climate change? And how does crypto come into that, right? So we'll have that conversation. We'll touch on it today. Sound fun? All right, let's go. All right, so the evolution of money. I had mentioned money is not escape that whole evolution conversation, right? And so let's just take it down to the basics. What is money? Money is an instrument or a tool, right? But way back when, it used to be gold. Even further, it used to be goods or services, right? Bartering, right? Could have been shells. We don't know, right? It was something that had a shared value, right? That could be exchanged for something else. Same thing. Money has not changed even if we're printing it, all right? All right, it requires a trust on both sides to claim that it has value, right? Otherwise, it doesn't work, right? And ultimately, it's a replacement or represents a value associated with the goods and services that we're using or need. Okay, so we take this because when we look at what money is, we can start to understand it's not necessarily, that paper or that coin. We got away from that a while back with credit card transactions and automatic transfers, right? We're a little more digital today than we were maybe even 20 years ago, right? But it's expanding beyond even the credit card conversations, right? All right, so change is inevitable. We can't fight it. It's really the only constant we have in life is that it's going to always change, right? And so we understand money is changing along with it and it's going to change shape, so form, right? It's going to change hands, right? Who's going to accept it, who's not going to accept it? Remember the bonds or the value, right? Um, minds, right? Believe it or not, money changed minds as well as lives. All of that is coming to play when we get to cryptocurrency, right? I know it seems like a really big topic, and I'm going to try to narrow it down into one little conversation, okay? But we'll try. All right, so our money needs, what it looks like, what's happening is changing along with mankind's understanding and needs. Now, I'm going to evolve this a little bit forward. Right, we're living in the virtual world. Right, we do. When the internet came along, right, remember all those years ago, the internet came along, it changed the way we communicate. It changed the way we do business, right? We are now really more of a global community than we ever were 50, 100 years ago. Right, so global trade is happening at higher levels, right? Markets are bigger, right? And we have markets that are largely intersected with other countries or other markets. Okay, so we're no longer silos. All right, money has slowly changed. Exchange markets, right? Think about that. We have to exchange money. Let's say if we're going to Europe, right? We got to change our US dollars for euros, possibly. Right? We've seen whole organizations or countries, let's talk about Europe, right? Go in and create one form of money so they don't have to do the constant exchanges and keep up with the individual valuation, right? So they're creating instruments to help make this trade easier. All right, we remember back when we would write checks for everything? That little old lady at the grocery store still writes her checks, right? We used to accept that little check as value of money, right? Knowing that there was something behind it, right? Credit cards, PayPal, right? Apple Pay, Google Pay. Think about how our virtual world has changed the needs of how we exchange, something of value for the purchase of those goods or value or goods or services, right? So we're seeing this happen. Well, as we go further into this global economy, right, we're starting to see a demand for something different that goes beyond PayPal, that goes beyond credit cards, right? And that's essentially where this crypto market comes in. All right, so we've moved beyond our local, what we call regional, sales or trade. We've moved even beyond our state, right? We've gone into national trade, and now we're going into the global market. And so there's a lot of sophisticated trade relationships that are happening, and they're requiring or demanding something that's an easy form of payment. All right. And that's a value of payment that is recognized globally in more of a global market. So we're going to take a deep breath because now I'm talking markets, right? Now, when we get into crypto markets, there's a lot of crypto. All right. It feels like sometimes they're creating it overnight and they're coming up with these cute little names, right? And they're doing little images, little digital images. I know, right? This is crazy. And the markets are going up and down and people are on their phone or they're on their computer watching the market trends. I know, I get it. I see it every day too, okay? But just understand that these markets are not set or governed by central banks. For good or for worse, right? I'm just pointing out they're not governed by central banks. So there's no formal policy restrictions, right? They're starting to come out, right? For instance, the US government is starting to understand how they deal with cryptocurrency, how they start to adapt, right? We've got the IRS talking about taxation conversations, starting to lay down the law. It's all coming, right? But what we've acknowledged is that there's this ever expanding global market and push to help make that trade easier and take away the burden of having individual dollars or units of money from across the globe go up and down in independent values, right? It's more of a stable, set way to look at the transfer or purchase of goods or products, not having to take into account exchange rates. It's very interesting, right? All right, so cryptocurrency is a solution to that global demand for trade, and it's different than anything we've really seen before. And when I say that, when I say see it, right, you can't really see it. It's more of like a like virtual money, right? You see it maybe in an account or what we call a wallet, right? But it's essentially um, blockchain or algorithms, which is a digital version of money or very secure form of payment, right? When I say very secure, it is difficult, if not impossible, to forge this type of blockchain. What we were talking about before, people can mine it themselves. I know that sounds crazy, right? But they buy machines that help essentially convert electricity into these algorithms, right? This blockchain, and they join groups. Okay, you can't do it alone, right? You always go um, farther with more people, so they join groups and they help write this type of code or blockchain to create that money, that cryptocurrency, and then they essentially own a portion of it. I know, so fascinating. That's not the only way to get into the cryptocurrency game. It's also to buy it, right? It's a market. So just as if you were to go in and buy stocks on the open market, you can go and buy currency. Different types of currency, right? Whew. So it's big, right? But try to understand, essentially, we're all buying into a market. We're all giving our trust. We're naming a value, right? And we're using this type of blockchain or code, which has ownership, right? To be able to transact business. So it has value based on this global market demand, right? It's accepted widespread everywhere you go. In fact, right, there's small countries that have had issues with drastic inflation and devaluation of their money, for instance, El Salvador, right? And they have just made a wide adaptation to accept cryptocurrency, right? So El Salvador was the first one, I believe, to go and say we're accepting cryptocurrency as our national currency, essentially getting rid of anything else. Isn't that crazy, right? So when I say it's happening, whole countries are getting on board with this. All right. Most importantly, what makes this solution so attractive is that it is trusted. It's essentially very safe, right? It is different, right? But it is trusted. Okay, so that's a lot of information, right? So what does that have to do with you? What does it have to do about your small business? What's going on there, right? Well, small business often follows big business. Not in everything, right? Many times small business is first to market, but big business, right, who has the big bucks, we're already seeing them adapt to cryptocurrency, right? And so I'm just going to name a few people that are already out there in the business world accepting this as payment daily. Microsoft. Bill Gates is a big promoter of cryptocurrency, early adapter. PayPal, right? So how many people have a PayPal account and transact business? Guess what? You can use, Bitcoin. Whole Foods. You can even go into some Whole Foods and they actually have a machine where you can buy cryptocurrency, right? Kind of like an ATM. Crazy. Okay. You've got Starbucks. Use cryptocurrency to buy your lattes. Etsy, buy your crafts. All right, Home Depot, rebuild your house. You see how this goes? AT&T, they're taking your crypto, and the list is growing daily. All right, so that's the big business, right? And we're always trying to compete or separate ourselves. So if the big business is accepting this as a form of payment, we know that it's only a matter of time when the market that's used to using this currency for these big ones are going to start expecting the small businesses to adapt as well. All right. Now, how does this start? Like, where do you even get your mind around accepting cryptocurrency? Where is this going? Right. So I'm just going to share with you that it doesn't necessarily require a huge amount of effort on your individual part. Right? Because there's a whole international play happening here, okay? And so big companies that we're already partnered with, already familiar with, that are already integrated into our transactions, they're doing the adaptations for us. All right. So get it. We've got MasterCard, right? So if you accept MasterCard in your business, no worry, right? They're doing this adaptation to cryptocurrency. And so if you already accept them, right, they are just adding on another layer of service or support to you as a business owner, right, as well as to your clients or customers that might be paying with their MasterCard. All right. So they just announced in the fourth quarter of 2021, so just a few months ago, a partnership with a new firm, right? It's a spinoff of the Intercontinental Exchange. It's called Backed. I know, right? But it is a crypto firm that helps them create wallets, right? So that's a wallet, a digital wallet is a way that you hold cryptocurrency very secure, right? So they help create these wallets. And so for any of their thousands, millions of merchants that are using or accepting MasterCard, they're now allowing for them to integrate crypto into their payment products. Okay, so I promised it wasn't going to be too hard, right? They're making it easier for you, right? Then they're also allowing for you to offer loyalty programs where points can be either offered, right, or exchanged for Bitcoin. Pretty cool, right? So now you have the ability to have a company help you develop loyalty programs, right, and then be able to exchange that on the open market. All right, now Visa, right? They don't want to be left in the dust. So Visa came and announced in December of 2021, right, just a couple months ago, that they're also entering this space which will allow for their merchants to accept and use Bitcoin. And they're just saying, you know what, we're going to wait just a little bit until the market stabilizes so that they can jump in and get in. All right. So now we have some of the two biggest credit card companies out there, right, getting into the space and accepting payment, and then helping their merchants start to accept payment as well. So I promise you, there's a couple different ways to get in the game. It's going to be made more mainstream, so it's not as difficult as what you may think, but it goes beyond that. All right. Um, so small businesses, they don't necessarily have to wait until MasterCard or Visa get in the game. That's not the only way that they can access this type of cryptocurrency. You can also sign up for it, right? You can go and create a wallet. There's different companies like the Ledger Nano S or Gerda that can help you, right? And you can accept multiple forms of currency. Remember, I said there's all sorts. And some days we laugh. It feels like they're creating new currency left and right. Right. So you can sign up for a wallet. You can find a provider that accepts multiple forms. So you're out there accepting different types of cryptocurrency, right? And those wallets will have specific safety features, right? As well as integration and app availability. Right, and so the way that works, just like almost anything these days, right, once you have an account, you have access to it, then you would have API or functions that would allow for you to connect that to things like your website, right, or your uh, payment plans, payment receivers, whoever your processor is to collect funds. You can collect that through that digital connection or integration. Now, just understand that transaction fees do apply. All right, so just as if you had used a MasterCard to accept payment, and there's going to be a small merchant fee associated with collecting the payment, you're in the same type of process with these cryptocurrency providers, right, with these wallets. They're going to take a little piece off of that to help you with processing it. All right, but just remember, you don't necessarily have to go through this route of finding one of these companies to help you with the digital wallet and to keep up with it, right? You can wait for MasterCard or Visa to do a lot of the work for you and then connect you through that system if that feels a little more comfortable for you. But it is all within your control today. All right. So now that we know what's coming down the pipeline, we understand it. We understand why it's coming down the pipeline, right? How do we start to prepare for this? Like there's some change that's happening, and we're really trying to figure out how our operations, right? How our fiscal or financial management, how do we start making sense of this type of digital currency? All right, well, one, it seems very simple. We just need to create a plan. We need to create a plan, right? And that means, you know, what are the different types of cryptocurrency that we're going to accept? How are we going to have that conversation, right? You get to choose, right? Understand that cryptocurrency is like going into a new marketplace, right? And in new markets, there's ups and there's downs. So you have to start understanding the volatility in these marketplaces. I know you're probably like, I don't want to deal with all that, Rebecca. I get it. I get it, right? But I'm just helping you understand it. Right. So you need to monitor the marketplace. You have to think about protecting investments, right? So that needs a process or a plan around how you're going to monitor that. Or maybe you offset that to a company that helps you manage it, right? There's software as well as available support to help you, right? So don't get overwhelmed, right? Software solutions are out there to help you. You can set up those defaults on it so it can help move money and alert you when you need to be alert. All right, and most importantly, you got to test the water before you dive in, right? It doesn't mean that you have to just start taking cryptocurrency and only cryptocurrency, right? Obviously, nobody is saying that here. But if you start to understand what's happening in the market, start preparing, start making it available, start testing it out, you're early enough in the game or if you can figure out how to make it benefit your business or work for you, you're starting to create an advantage as well as prepare for that next level, right? Okay, so we're going to create a plan. We're going to figure out what that looks like for us. All right. And then with any plan, you've got to evaluate it, right? So how is it working? So figure out what period of time you want to go back and do that review. All right. That's that reflection on your experience with the history that you've built. Right. Ask yourself, how did that go? Right. Maybe it went great. Maybe it went horrible. Be honest, right? What lessons did you learn? Right? Sometimes we call that paying future tuition, right? We don't always do everything perfectly the first time, but we do have to recognize if we've made losses, right? Just paying that tuition forward. How can we make changes that improve that? Does that cryptocurrency reflect your current market? We're going to talk more about that in a minute, but there is a market out there that uses this currency, that loves this currency, that's adapting. And so you have to understand, is that your marketplace where your goods and services are going? All right. And then understand, you know, who's showing up and paying with that cryptocurrency. Can you drill into that? What are their motivations, right? What's a day in their life? That's that sales and marketing conversation, right? Is there an increase in sales or demand from that marketing group when you launch this, right? That would be really interesting to find out, right? And now you got to start looking at the difference between the different systems, the monetary systems, right? So what was the value of your cells when you did cryptocurrency versus traditional currency? Right? And did your income increase? Were you able to take advantage of those market rates, right? Increase your income and be more profitable because you're accepting these payments, right? And then if that didn't happen, right, what things can you change to improve? Was it a good experience? Is it something worth going after, right? Understand whether or not this actually fits your business model. All very interesting, right? But evaluation and reflection, highly important, especially when you're trying to understand the benefits and whether or not you want to continue something down this line. Okay, so I had mentioned earlier there's something about, customer loyalty and cryptocurrency, right? I know we're all trying to find ways to reward our loyal customers or clients, right? Or provide some added advantage. And if we as a business owner can do that without having to pay lots of money out of pocket, we're all down for it, right? Okay. All right. Well, welcome to customer loyalty benefits. All right. So we understand instinctively customer loyalty is providing some type of incentive for that repeat business, right? And hopefully it's an incentive that creates excitement and a desire to return for that customer client back to your business, right? Like they find value in it, right? And hopefully too, it enhances their overall experience. It's something that helps you stand out as providing excellent customer service, excellent value, right? And it drives appreciation. Right. So when you've got a customer or client that appreciates it, right, feels motivated, they're going to refer you. They're going to talk about you. You're going to get all this positive press, right? They're going to come back. They're going to drag other people to come back, right? Customer loyalty is a huge part of what helps a business really expand and grow beyond having to pay marketing dollars, right? Having to pay money to try to get that new or repeat business in. All right, so if we can create that type of dynamic within the business with some type of program that doesn't cost us any physical, tangible money, right? That provides like this unmatched value to our business. Okay, and it becomes a competitive advantage. It sets us apart, right? It drives that attention. It helps us really benefit. All right, so cryptocurrency has solutions for that, right? You can create rewards that are unique for your business. I don't know what your business looks like, right? Maybe there's something that is really exciting. It could be something simple, right? It could be they get a digital image every time they come in. I don't know, right? It could be crypto rewards. It could be future discounts, but they're all held in that little wallet, right? That makes it easy for them to see. That's where they're monitoring or watching, right? And you can control the timing or the cashing in of these rewards. That's something that you can control on your end because you're essentially creating this type of opportunity. All right, so it's digitally tracked so you can see who's cashed in, taken advantage, right? You start getting very specific on that target market, what motivates them, right? How to get them to come back. Anytime you can drill into more information, understand your market base better, always good, right? All right, and then it just doesn't cost you a lot of money, right, in order to be able to play with this type of solution. Now, that may all be based on what those rewards are going to look like, right? Maybe you want to offer some pretty amazing benefits. Let's say you are a salon and you want to offer free services. Obviously, that has a value associated with them, but doesn't necessarily have to be of high value. You get to set that. Right? And so think about this type of loyalty is really a form of very selective, very well-timed marketing that attracts and maintains that marketing base. All right. All just in the form of money and acceptance of money that you're using. Now, I can't say that this whole opportunity exists in the traditional money market, right? We would be paying money, right, to make something like this happen. We don't necessarily have the ability to create it for almost nothing. So it's a beautiful opportunity that can be created by business owners. Okay. So hopefully this up to this point, we've kind of piqued your interest, right? We got a good understanding of what the conversation looks like today and going forward because we know that change is inevitable, right? Now let's start driving in more about what we're dealing with in the upcoming market. All right, so I was sharing with the team earlier that I did a lot of research on this whole inflation conversation, and it kind of scares me. I'll be honest, it scares me. And so when we bring up this digital money, right, when we talk about cryptocurrency, it is potentially a way to kind of sidestep some of these problematic issues that are coming at us, all right? And so I say that delicately because I am not going to promise you that this is the solution for you. I'm not going down on record like that, okay? But I do want to open this little tiny window to kind of expand your mind a little bit to help you understand this inflation beast, right? And maybe a way to try to hedge or to offset risk, okay? All right. So, what is inflation? Take a moment. We all have some type of idea of what inflation means to us. Maybe as we sit here together, we can all think of ways current inflation has impacted us, right? Maybe at the grocery store, maybe supply chain interruptions where you're paying for that, right? But traditionally, what we're talking about is just really simply inflation happens when the buying power of our dollar declines, right? So we get less for the same dollar, all right? And just to put it all very simply, we've got too much money chasing too few goods and services. Now, we put that together with what we know or have experienced over the last 2 years with the pandemic, right? The supply chain interruptions, more money being printed by the government. We can start to see how this inflation ball, right, that's gaining speed and getting bigger has really come into the picture. We have a real intimate understanding of that, I'm sure. All right. So let's talk about COVID-19 because you know what? It hasn't gone away, right? We're still dealing with it. We're still addressing. We're still trying to figure it all out, right? But just in a nutshell, we know that the government came in with federal assistance in the form of cash, right? So grants and money being provided to consumers and businesses, right? As well as they offered low interest rates to financial institutions, right? So they could borrow money at very cheap amounts so they could push that into the economy. And there were some goals, right? There's some goals that happen. We want to make sure that we didn't have high unemployment. So we really tried to reduce unemployment, keep everybody employed and stable, right? We made that capital accessible so that they could continue to pay their bills without going out of business, right? Or consumers pay their bills without losing their home or their car, right? Their livelihood, right? But at the same time, we created this really weird bubble where there was a strong demand because everybody was locked away or restricted from going places, right? And they had more money than what they might have had previously, right? The dreams of what they're going to do with that money at night, that demand was built on this. Okay, so businesses between 2020 and 2021, right? We're still in 2022 at the time of this taping. We're in the first quarter, right? Businesses often saw strong demand for their products or services. Hopefully, okay? Not for everybody, but for hopefully. All right, and so what ended up happening, at least I've seen it, is businesses gained this type of pricing power. They have the ability to increase the prices to offset some of those expenses. And people have the money, right? So they're willing to pay the increased amount. So again, right, we've got this increased pricing power, right? And because we got the high demand and we've got the money, guess what? We need employees to help us meet the demand, right? So we need more employees to come in, right? And this is where we've lived for 2020 and 2021. Yeah. All right. So what's happened, right, is a lot of money is still floating around in the economy, right? And to take it out, right, to take that money out and try to level things off, right, they need to increase interest rates. So interest rates on loans, right? And we see this happening right now. Last week, the Federal Reserve increased the prime rate a quarter of a percent. That was back on March 16th. The last increase to that prime rate was back in December of 2018. Okay, so we are in 2022 at the time of this, right? That was almost, well, like over 3 years ago was the last time they increased that rate. So for almost over 3 years, okay, it just finally went up a quarter percent. Now they have planned to continue increasing it. They're going to meet 6 more times this year. They plan to continue increasing it till we get to a point where we're getting more level, more stable. All right. Now, if you were to sit and listen to some of the economists who, all in their own right, very educated, very knowledgeable, right, how they feel about these increases, many economists feel that they should increase the rate faster than this quarter of a percent, right? And then there's history that shows that if they react too slowly to increase inflation, then it's not going to have an effect at all. All right. Now, at the same time, right, they're increasing rates. We've also got the government really changing the bond yields by buying more bonds, so taking money out of circulation, right? And we're starting to see them buy those bonds back and that pricing move higher. Again, pulling money out of the economy. Okay, so the Federal Reserve is trying to help, right? But what we've got is the lasting impact. So let's talk about the impacts. So in 2020, all right, 7% increases in prices. That was the largest increase in prices since 1982. And if you've been around for a few years and you can remember 1982, right, we all just kind of close up Prepare ourselves. It was some scary things that happened in 1982 and right after that. All right. So then in 2021, right, remember the European nations, remember they created the euro, or the Euro one or Eurozone, right? They saw 5% increases in prices. So here in the States, it was 7%. The European countries, 5%. And by the way, that 5% was over twice their goal. Their goal was 2%. They ended up at 5%. Okay, so it's not just us. Inflation's happening around the world. All right, and so let's take that down to a personal level. The average American family saw a $4,000 increase in costs. That's according to Harvard economists. $4,000 increase in cost in 2021. Right? That's 2021. It's still continuing. We're not done. All right, so let's talk about risks of traditional money, right? We talk about cryptocurrency, that's the new digital money, right? And we also talk about traditional money, that's the dollar bills and the fives and the 20s you got in your pocket, right? If we went to the bank today and we asked for a withdrawal and we needed $100, they would give you that traditional money. All right, inflation's the number one risk to small businesses per me. This gal right here. Okay, I've been reading a lot about this, and I'm telling you, this is a slippery slope that we're all on together because as costs go up, right? Fewer goods and services, right? Costs are going up to be able to bring to market those goods and services. That might be labor costs, it might be raw material costs, right? We're having to navigate these increased costs and really understand our bottom line, right? Our profitability. But when you've got things like inflation happening on the back end, makes it really hard to be able to predict or understand your profitability. Because if your dollar value is maybe, equal to a dollar one day and then equal to 75 cents the next, you can try, right, to be profitable, but your value of your traditional money is going down. You can get into a pit of unprofitability quickly, right? So that devaluation of money happens, right? It's an uncertain market. I can't tell you where it's going to be next quarter. Can't tell you where it's going to be at the beginning of 2023, right? It has a direct impact against our bottom line or our profitability as businesses, and it's something we don't have control over. You can try to guess, you can try to estimate, right? That's great. We just don't fully know. And the sad part is some industries are going to be hit harder by this type of inflation exposure than others. Okay, so I'm working with it, and I give you an example just so that we can all sit and say, yep, I understand what Rebecca's talking about. I'm working with a business owner right now that's a manufacturer, right? They do cabinets, right? So they work in what we call raw materials, the lumber, right? Glue, nails, raw materials. They also sell their finished goods, right? So there's what we call WIP or work in progress. Right, industries like that, they have an exposure on the raw materials, they have exposure on the end result, and the price of that raw materials and those goods and the sales, right, they're all taking over in a period of time, and then the dollar is going up and down over that period of time. Right, if they hold on to those materials or hold on to that product for too long, right, that inflation exposure is there and it could really impact their bottom line, and it's really tricky for them to try to monitor and to make sure that they remain profitable. Do you understand? Like that competition, that initial pricing structure, the whole makeup of how they understand their profitability needs to be constantly evaluated, and the cycle of the sell really understood to a very good degree in order for them to come away from the inflation conversation feeling good and that they're remaining profitable. I know it is a tough and trickery situation. All right, so let's take it to the side, right? Let's talk about something slightly different. We've been introduced to cryptocurrency, right? So how does that impact by the inflation conversation? Well, number one, crypto is not printed by the government. What? Remember all those people making the crypto or buying the crypto? It's not printed by the government. So guess what? You didn't have that whole mass rush of money flooding the market that you did with the traditional money when COVID happened, right? So a different marketplace, right? Not flooded with new money. By the way, apparently over the last 2 years, we saw more new money printed in the United States than we saw in the first 200 years of our country birth. Okay. Whoa. And so 2 years more than what 200 years were when the country was being founded, right? When you would think that there would be more of a demand. Very interesting. All right. Okay. So traditional pressures on the value of that currency are different for cryptocurrency than they are for the traditional money. Okay, so think about this, right? So traditional pressures are things like labor costs, supply chain interruption, the government taking money out, increasing rates or prices. We think about all of that. Well, it's different for cryptocurrency. It's not as impacted in the same manner. I'm not saying it's not impacted, right? But it's not at the same degree, right? And plus, there's different markets, right? And so they maintain or their value go up and down differently. All right, so then there's a different market exposure. Right. So remember, with any time we talk about market, there's the time of entrance and price coming into the market and the price exiting the market. Right. So depending on your needs and how much money and how you've invested, right, you may be able to control the entrance and the exit, unlike the traditional money, which is just going up and down. Right. Okay. And so inflationary pressure may be hedged or offset by cryptocurrency portfolios, right? Because you're talking about a portfolio, not necessarily just rushing the market. So you might be able to hedge or move money around, which helps you reduce that need to sell at a certain low point, right? Essentially taking a loss. I know this is a lot. What I want you to take away from this slide is understanding that there's a different market for cryptocurrency, one that the government hasn't necessarily really engaged with a huge influx of dollars, right? Different ways to move around, right? To use the different tools that are available to minimize losses, right? It's a different animal altogether. All right. So now we're going to go into a conversation talking about market reach, right? And market in general. All right, so we understand that cryptocurrency is something that is different, it's new, and let's dive into who's using it, right? And then how does this start to take off, right? Who's really driving the change and innovation in the market? Okay, so let's start with a user profile. Right, so who's using cryptocurrency? Well, it's most popular with young adults. That's not surprising, right? 31% of the people are ages 18 to 29. So that's a big chunk, right? Almost a third, right? And that's compared to 21% of the people who are aged 30 to 49. 8% of the people are aged 50 to 64, right? And 3% are over the age of 65. So that's not too bad, right? We definitely see that the people that are more active, right, over half are between the ages of 18 and 49. Half of the people using it are in that, right? And we see, slower progression for older people. But where is your demographic for your business? Are you selling to people between the age of 18 to 49, right? Is that a big chunk of it? Is there an overlap between what your products you're selling and maybe the adaptation to cryptocurrency? Question to ask yourself. right? And they're saying that there's a study performed by Finder.com that the younger generations are blazing the trail with the crypto investment. All the crypto investors, 44%, right, are millennials, 28% are Gen X, 17% are Gen Z, and 8% are those baby boomers. Okay, really eye-opening. And I know that in marketing, we do a lot of work about trying to understand the mindset and what drives each of those generational buyers, right? Now we're just going to overlap that same insight that you have with their form of money patterns, right? So where are you going to find them, right? And as of 2021, the global crypto ownership rates are an average of 3.9%. And that's over 300 million crypto users worldwide. And that's gaining traction, right? Because I promise once we heard my MasterCard, Visa, they're getting in the game, right? More mainstream companies make it easier for people to use and purchase crypto. This is going to explode, right? And right now there's over 18,000 businesses accepting cryptocurrency payments, and that's going to only explode as well. So fascinating, right? Understanding how this is going. All right, so let's talk about target markets. It's all about accessibility, right? Making it easy for people to be able to buy your product or service, right? Making it, attractive to them. So understanding your target demographic and market really helps you understand how to communicate and how to hold that transaction, right? That's part of the conversation. That may, depending on your target market, right, dictate the payment methods you need to consider. All right. If I was selling trendy clothes to the, younger generations, I may just very well need to make sure I've got a crypto access to pay for those trendy clothes, right? That may not be something that I necessarily choose, but it may be chosen by the demographic that I'm trying to support. Allowing access to pay for goods and services with cryptocurrency just opens doors to those younger markets, right? And it provides potentially a competitive advantage over others, right? So maybe other competitors aren't selling, right? And you start selling. It could be, a differentiator that really sets you apart. And all you're having to do, right, is just inform, create the opportunity, right? So get the wallet, go out there and create that little marketplace, connect it to the website. All you're having to do is essentially create the opportunity. Now, it may also help you expand that client base because we understand, right? Accessibility drives demand. Demand for the product or the good or services is communicated to others within the same circles, right? It's like getting referrals. All right. It becomes a new marketing technique. What? All right. Go tell me where your money, your traditional money, becomes a marketing technique for you. No, right? It just becomes a money pit. Okay. We just keep paying more money. Potentially switching to cryptocurrency can drive into that loyalty conversation, to a target market, accessibility, to communication, to a culture, right? It creates all these potential advantages that didn't exist with your traditional money option. Fascinating, right? I mean, just fascinating. All right, so here we're going to go in with a summary. I want to give plenty of time to get feedback, questions. I will try to answer them. Remember, this is all new, right? And it's all ever changing. I will do my best to answer those questions, but let's just do a quick summary. I'm just going to say that cryptocurrency is really beyond a trend at this point. So if you were standing back saying, it'll die down, everybody just keeps on holding on to their dollars and cents. It's beyond a trend at this point, right? Demand is there. Our banks, our government, right? They're adopting regulations and policies to be able to understand and interact with this new form of currency. It's become mainstream. It's becoming more mainstream, and the popularity of digital money is fast growing. It's fascinating. Now, small businesses that adapt, right? I'm going to say this is, I feel like you'll be more inclined to grow with that new market space, right? Understand the market space, the added advantages, right? It's like your business acumen evolves with it and allows you that competitive advantage. So if you were to line up maybe the top three competitors and your business, could you use this as a competitive advantage? Right? Could this be something that helps you adapt and grow beyond what others are doing? Right? Is this something for you to think about? All right. So digital money, right? There are benefits. We talked about inflation, right? It's coming, right? It's here, right? Is this a way for you to potentially hedge inflation concerns? I'm not going to determine that for you. That's something that you need to determine for yourself based on how you use cash in your business, right? How you might be able to park cash for whatever periods of time. But understand this is a way that you might be able to hedge inflation as well as drive those customer loyalty options. It literally could be a game changer. If you explored it, remember, came up with a plan, right? Reflected on it, tested it, came back, improved. Ultimately, the change is coming for us, right? It's here, it's happening. It's uncomfortable. It's not easy, right? It's like an added homework assignment that we didn't want, right? But it's going to be necessary to survival. So the sooner we learn about it, the quicker we adapt, the more we learn, right? Essentially, the stronger the business can be, as well as our leadership in it. Isn't that fun? Okay, team. So my name is Rebecca Schultz. I am the founder and executive loan consultant for Centerlock. I love what I do. I love money. I love talking about money. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have coming up about this topic or others. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing and I want to take questions. I'm ready.
Okay, if you have any questions, please, you can put them in the chat room or you can unmute yourself and ask Rebecca whatever questions. If not, I have like a page and a half of questions myself. So, um, this is all kind of like whenever you go back to grandma writing a check to pay for groceries, and then everybody all of a sudden starts, they're going to take a debit card. Well, no, that's big and scary and ooh, fire, scary. And now it's second nature. I mean, if you don't have your debit card, then you're kind of like left out in open water there. Uh,
I agree. That and the electrical wallets we're already using, right? If you've used your Apple Pay,
mhm.
right? And you're carrying that around, or you maybe have an Apple Watch, right? It doesn't have to be Apple, it can be, you know, Samsung too, right? But essentially, you connect to a digital wallet and then you swipe and go, right? That's essentially what we're creating on a bigger level with different markets.
Is that how the Amazon stores, you go in there and you don't pay, you just walk through a gate and it senses
You know, I
method?
I can't speak to that, but I would imagine that's got to be something since of usually when you're using the digital wallet, you have to activate the digital wallet.
Mhm,
Whenever you're trying to use it, you have to open it up because it's always secure. So I'm
mhm,
not sure how they do that,
mhm.
but I'm sure there's something along that level.
Okay, that wasn't one of my questions, but that just came to mind.
That's a good one.
Would you expand on mining for crypto? I mean, I have this picture that of a miner going in and looking for stuff. Uh,
It looks very different. They're like little boxes. I would say no bigger than 12 inches wide in most cases, or long, 12 inches long, maybe, 6 to 8 inches wide. And they're just like a little computer hard drive. That's what it looks like. And it just hums. So if you, I mean, I'll laugh, but if you go through your neighborhood and it sounds like somebody's vacuuming. Okay. And let's say the garage door's up, just like, I don't know, a few inches, right? They're mining. They're in there. They've just got little computers that are on that are converting electricity and essentially writing code. And there is a system that collects that code. And again, they connect it to a larger system that's working together. And so you essentially have an account online and it is keeping up with the code. And of course, as multiple people are pulling that code together and creating the currency, right, it's giving you credit to the ownership for whatever greed percentage it is that you've created. So everybody, there's no miners, right? There's no hats, there's no coal. All it is just computers that are turned on and connected to a computer or a system that allows for that blockchain to be captured, right? Shared via internet, right? And then you get credit for that in an online account or digital account.
oh, kind of like rewards points that you get for using your credit card?
Kinda, yeah. Yeah, kind of. It's very
Okay.
interesting. You can actually watch it and you can see, how much, like when you get to the next coin, right, or to the next dollar amount, and then you just see like money being added into your digital wallet. It'd be like just sitting there and having somebody pay you, here's another 10 cents, here's another 20 cents. Yeah.
Okay.
There's articles, it's really popular amongst the younger kids. There's articles where young kids have been doing this for a while and they have been playing the market, right? Buying and selling on that open market. And they have become really wealthy over a short period of time
Hmm.
doing that. And that's essentially what it is.
Uh, Brett is asking, is that good for the environment? Seems like using a lot of electricity.
Yeah, I can't say it's good for the environment. I can say that I read an article just over the weekend where at the foothills of the Virginia mountains, there is a community, there's like a company that went in and put in a bunch of these, like a farm, they call it a miner farm, right? And it's so loud and distracting, right? That all the residents are hating this because that hum like a vacuum. Imagine putting, tons of those in one place. It becomes very distracting. And yes, it gives off a lot of heat and so it's not necessarily good for the environment. I know because of the Texas storms, right? When we had the winter storm last year, going into this winter, where they were anticipating maybe some more stormage, they did not want to have a situation where these miners right, were taking away from the power grid and causing brownouts, right, or power losses or issues for the rest of the community and for the Texas, right? And so there was agreements that there would be restrictions on running miners. All very interesting. It's a whole different world.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, what is the impact on regular currency? I mean, with the cryptocurrency, looking at the environment now with the war, the ruble has devalued to the point where it's worth less than pennies on the dollar. Can crypto come in and take the place of the ruble and restore an economy or give back some buying power?
Oh yeah, so that's what's happened. Like I had mentioned in El Salvador, it was just too weak for them to be able to go out into the market really and do anything with. So people And the government, in that case, replaced it with cryptocurrency, which was more reliable, right? And allowed for them to have more stability. And so, yes, I'm sure many of Europeans are looking at cryptocurrency, right, in replacement for something like the ruble. Now, I can't, I don't have experience selling ruble to cryptocurrency. I'm sure that's not a pretty sight at the moment. But yes,
Yeah.
the system is set up for them to be able to use cryptocurrency and be able to transact business in many cases. So it would be a safe way to get around that.
So using that, like El Salvador, if they had a treasury department at one time and now they've converted to crypto.
They don't have a currency anymore. It just becomes that is the currency that everybody agrees to accept. It goes back to what is money, right? It's just whatever we have all agreed to exchange for goods and services. So if we just all decided we're getting rid of, traditional money and we're all going to cryptocurrency, everybody get your crypto out, right? Then it's done.
Wow, wow. And Brett is asking a question that I had down to ask. Okay, there are different types of cryptocurrency. There's Bitcoin, there's Dogecoin, there's all of these others.
Dogecoin, there's all
Um,
kinds. Litecoin, there's all
is
kinds of coin.
is there one that's better than the other?
No, they're all individual markets. I think that's what makes it a little bit confusing, right?
Mhm.
So if you imagine going into the stock market and buying stocks, and you might buy a little bit of Starbucks, you might turn around and buy a little bit of, I don't know, let's say GameStop. It feels like we're playing a game here. All right, so you buy a little of this and a little of that. That's kind of like going into the crypto market, right? You got a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You can exchange it for each other, right? And the value that it holds and how that market is doing goes up and down. So you're moving it from one stock essentially to another, and then you're waiting to see where that money increases in value, right? But each type of crypto has its own market. Now they intersect in a form of they can be transferred or sold for one another, right? But that's where when you sign up for your wallet will allow you to be able to transact with specific types of cryptocurrency. I think on average, a lot of wallets will do up to 30 different types of cryptocurrency. Now that's changing. So if you're watching this and you're like, it's 35, Rebecca, I know they created overnight, okay? I can't keep up. But in most cases, it's roughly 30 cryptocurrencies. And so you would be like on um, an online user experience, right, where you've logged in and you're just watching the markets. You would see the markets go up and down, and you'd be able to transact between them in order to improve. But again, inflation, right? The dollar's just going down. There's not much you can do about the inflation dollar, right? Your buying power as a business owner, you just got to make the best decisions you possibly can and kind of hang on until things get better. With the crypto market, right? You're accepting forms of payment in one way or another, so you have a little control over which market it's going into that may be more stable than the U.S. dollar. I don't know, right? Definitely the ruble. I would tell you it would probably be definitely the ruble on that front, but you would have a little bit of knowledge of what's happening, be able to control a little bit more, or be selective. And then remember, there's the entrance and the exits. You'd be able to essentially control that as well.
Is there one central place where this is controlled? Or is it in the cloud?
It's in the cloud. I
So
know.
is there somebody that has access to this that is running like
Oh
wow.
my goodness. It is so fascinating. So there's people that have gotten their digital wallets. Okay. So, think of your phone. You got your wallet on your phone, digital wallets, and they've lost them. They somehow were thrown out in the trash, and there's hundreds of thousands of dollars on that digital wallet. There's no way to go back in and get it. Okay. It is so secure. They're having to go and dig in the landfills and try to find the wallet so they don't lose the money. They absolutely need the wallet to be able to transact business. It's fascinating.
Wow. And can we create our own? I mean,
Yes, you can. You can go and buy a miner and you can become a miner and your neighbors will hate you. No, just pretend like you're a very clean person. You're always vacuuming in that garage. You're always vacuuming. No, yeah, sure. People can create their own Bitcoin. Lots of people are doing it. It's becoming more and more popular. I imagine it, for HOAs and in the future. There'll probably be restrictions on it, but I don't know any restrictions now. I think you can just even buy it and go into these farms where you can become like a partner or shareholder in a larger amount. That takes, different levels of investment depending on where you want to go. All very fascinating, but people are literally creating their own digital money these days.
okay, Brett, there's your answer. You can develop Brett coin there. Um,
That's the plan. Exactly the plan.
does there have to be any sort of backing, like to Brett coin?
It's the blockchain and the agreement amongst those parties that they're going to accept that value, right? So, no, there's no like gold standard. There's nothing behind it. It's just a very secure form of ownership, right? An agreed value in that marketplace that gives it its worth.
And I have one last question. So anybody, please chime in if you have any questions. I, I'm fascinated, absolutely
Crazy, right?
fascinated by this. Yeah. Okay, you were talking about small businesses maybe converting to or starting to accept Bitcoin. Would that be an even dollar for dollar exchange, or would you have one price for credit and cash and one price for Bitcoin for your goods or
Um,
services?
yeah, so that's up to the business owner how they want to do that, right? So you could potentially say, you know what, cryptocurrency is earning more money. I don't have the same type of exposure. I've got to charge more if you're going to pay me in US dollars. So the price is going to be here, whereas here, yeah, you have that control as the business owner on what you're going to let that product or service go and in forms of payment, right? I look at that as saying, if you're going to use credit card, maybe you as a business owner don't want to carry those merchant fees, so you pass that
Mhm,
fee along back over to the business owner and they agree to that, right? You could have
mhm.
that same type of conversation in these individual transactions.
Wow.
Hey, Paula, I know that you've gone through hopefully your page and a half, right?
I've got another 3 or 4 pages, but go ahead,
Do you?
Roger.
Well, I only came up with 26 questions, so I won't, go through. Oh, Brett's out. Uh, all right. So, I just want to start with the inflation if I can. Uh, Personally, hopefully you agree, Rebecca, I think that every economist that is involved in government decision making should actually own a small business. They should not be able to hold that position without owning a small business. They would probably make better decisions. That would be my comment on that. Um, the with I kind of look at it and tell me if you might see it this way a little bit as well. We all for 2 years we were subjected to the TV and the charts that they put up regarding COVID and the COVID cases, and we always saw this huge bell curve just moving through, this timeline and how it just affected us with the different things, number of cases and stuff. And I actually kind of look at it the same with the inflation and the amount of money that's been put out there. It's this huge bell curve of money that's been, put out there, and it just has to move through that specific time frame, whether that's going to be, 1 month, unlikely, but maybe 24 months or 36 months of just kind of moving through the economy. Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, the money seems to always end up in the bigger players' pockets at some point. So For us, it just has that bell curve just has to work through the middle economy before it kind of gets absorbed. Um, does that sound kind of, or is that a picture I can kind of go with?
Yeah, I like that picture. I'd agree. That
Yeah.
sounds like a good way to explain it.
The other thing that I thought with regards to the inflation, uh, it seems like the PPP was definitely not a participant in why we're having this issue on the inflation, but the idle was 100% not 100% responsible, but a huge factor in that because there were, I don't know how many trillions, thrown or billions thrown at that, but that money was over and above what the PPP was meant to be payroll type
Yeah,
related. That was just
exactly.
it would have already been there. It was just missing, but the idle was complete excess. So, do you see that playing a role in it?
That's a really good, I like how you're pointing out the two different products. And I'm going to just kind of validate that and say the PPP, remember, it was really set up to just be 2 months worth of cash flow. And during those 2 months worth of critical cash flow, it was, you know, largely to handle payroll, keep people employed for that short period of time. So I would just back up and say I agree. That wasn't really driving the issue as a short-term situation that had to be used a specific way. And I mean, I personally have not had too many business owner experiences where they didn't use it properly. Have seen it. I've seen where they've misused it, right? But not very many. Most of them adhered to it and it was a short-term help. But when you look at the idle, that was essentially 2 years. Originally it was 6 months, then they made it 24 months. 2 years worth of capital to support businesses. And I can't say that, I mean, I feel like I saw people take the money when they didn't really need to take the money, right? And I felt like I was standing on the sideline saying, "Don't do that, don't do that." But I'm not judging. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, right, when you've gotten 2 years of money in 1 year, right, that creates a ton of money sitting in the banking system, right, which, leads to having these problems that we're dealing with. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of moving from that onto the crypto, the couple questions I have with that is um, for small businesses, the crypto, whether you're talking about Doge or you're talking about, Bitcoin, the price fluctuates, on a daily, weekly, basis. And so for a small business, if they're accepting payment through crypto. And then next week, when they go to replenish and buy their product to replace it, and the crypto has gone down 10%, that seems like an issue. But there's also the benefit on the upside as well. Can you just kind of talk what your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, so that takes managing, right? That takes understanding where you're driving the money, where you're holding the money, and when you take the money out versus when you put it in. And so that is where I would say you would need to get familiar with the software and understand the market and then get really clear with your cash cycle, right? And when you're going to need to pull that money in and how much of that currency you retain in any type of reserve balance, right? That's going to take management through the treasury aspect of the business. It's not necessarily going to be, win-win for everybody. I agree. Like it's going to be different. Now, at the same time, like let's take that a step further. Okay, Roger, let's say that you're able to pay for your goods and services using that same cryptocurrency coin, right? So you're not having to do like that exchange rate, right? You're not going to take it back into US dollars. You're keeping it at whatever that agreed market level is within the same currency. That may also play into that scenario, and that would be an element you would have to explore. So it's going to take somebody managing their portfolio, understanding reserves, moving money, almost like you're in the stock market, right? A trader, right? By day, trader by night. You're moving money in order to make sure that you're running the operation at the most optimal point.
Right. So retail by day and trader by night. That's
Yeah, it feels that way. They have, I
uh,
mean, it's wild. They have so many creative things for you to do.
yeah.
It feels like people are just sitting around watching video games or playing video games, but they're essentially managing their coin.
Well, in an attempt to get Brett back online, I'll end it with just one question so that I don't bore him too much. Um, so hey Brett, the it, there's countries out there that are now contemplating, their own cryptocurrency. The U.S., China, and the euro is now kind of starting to talk about that. So, how, in my mind, my mind leaps from, okay, today we have several different currencies running majority of the world, and then we just transfer that instead of handling paper money, it's several different countries that have now come up with their own cryptocurrency. Uh, I guess in my mind, how do you manage that? And then lastly, in today's world, like you had brought up in the very beginning, there's been more money printed in the last 2 years than ever in the history of the US. How do you prevent, if the US comes up with their own cryptocurrency, how does that play into that static amount of crypto, or could they suddenly add a little bit of crypto that wasn't there before?
So remember, it's all based on blockchain, right? So, and we'd all have to agree to use that crypto, right? So, I feel that although they certainly can create their own crypto and they can, essentially monitor that market just like they would on the traditional money market, right? We'd all have to agree to use and adhere by that market. I can't say that with the way things are going, that is something that everybody's, going to jump on board with. A lot of people look at cryptocurrency as being more of a free market. You can even take it, I mean, I feel like I'm taking it into this a different spin, but there are also voices out there saying that this is helping change the patterns of, generational wealth where that wasn't necessarily available to certain segments of our population. And now this is kind of leveling the field and allowing for everybody to, kind of start on that same foot, right? Essentially. And so there's a lot to play about, who wants to adopt and accept and move money into use specific markets. It's a sophisticated engine, but I wouldn't say that the US would, I mean, and I don't know, right? Because I don't know, but I would say that it's up to the user, where we agree to use our market, and it would have to be advantageous for those users, to be able to adhere and strictly base money in one, nationality or one market, right? And I couldn't imagine, and I don't know, but I couldn't imagine where US companies are going to be forced to accept just one form of cryptocurrency. I mean, who knows? Maybe that would happen, but so far, it is an open market and people can make those decisions themselves, and there has to be some type of added benefit in order for people to buy in. And then, of course, there's the other party on the other end that's agreeing to be paid in that form of cryptocurrency. So it takes a partnership.
Yeah. Well, I think if we had you here each week for the next year, I don't think that we'd ever have the same topic or discussion on cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I agree. It's entertaining.
We could just talk forever on this subject, but I'm gonna wrap my 3 pages up now and give it back to Paula.
Well, something else came to mind while Roger was talking. Uh, so we're probably looking at a new discipline within the financial realm, like your basic CPA that's used to spreadsheets and all of that. Maybe they're going to have to learn how to mine or manage their client's portfolio.
Yeah.
Uh, that that is mind blowing. It just really all is. So, do you have any parting words for us?
You know what? I think that this is going to be a very curious next few years. We've got so much. Right, we're just talking cryptocurrency. We got inflation. We've got so much that's going on as business owners. Hopefully, this insight, gives you a better understanding of what that future may look like. Had you question certain things, right? Maybe gave you a path forward where you think you might find some traction, but always stay connected to the SBDC as new topics are coming up and as new information is made available so that you can hopefully manage your business even better.
Rebecca, as always, this has been amazing, amazing. And we enjoy having you. And thank you for joining us and giving us a whole new perspective on mining. Actually, I don't know, but um, I just want to remind everyone that you'll be receiving a survey. And if you would please go ahead and answer that survey, let us know how we're doing and other bits of information that you would uh, like to see presentations on. We would love to get your feedback. Uh, you can see that we have a few more upcoming webinars. We have one this afternoon, Building a High Quality Email List Part 1 with Ashley Cook. And then on Thursday, we have another double header, Budgets in QuickBooks Online. That's going to be a good one. And then part 2 of Building a High Quality Email List. And then we're wrapping it up with on the 29th with QuickBooks Online and Apps. You can use the QR code up in the upper right-hand corner to access our website. You can schedule you can register for events, you can get contact information, schedule an appointment with an advisor. We would love to talk with you and see how we can help you. We also have resources for small businesses already out there on our website, like a new one called Size Up. It's a really interesting way to get some demographic information for your area and your industry. As I mentioned earlier, we are grant funded, and I would like to say thank you to some of our grant funding sources: the Small Business Administration, the state of Texas, North Texas SBDC Regional Office, and the North Central Texas College, our host institution. Thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you this afternoon. This is going to end the webinar. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye, team. Thank you.